What's up, everybody? This is the 7th episode of the Easy Podcast.
Easy Podcast.
The Easy Podcast. Welcome. No, gosh.
Yes, do it.
I'm not going to do it.
You should.
I know I have a buttery smooth voice, but I'm not going to go into Barry White.
Oh, you should. Oh, the audience wants Barry White.
That's not
Yes,
true at
they
all.
do. That's
so
why
we're going to
listening.
move. We're going to move along right now. Episode 7. Thanks for joining us.
Ask your wife. That's why she married you.
All right. It wasn't just the voice. Thank you.
Well, no, but that's where it started.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Well, episode 7. Last week we talked about Halloween. This week we're talking about film festivals.
Yes, film festivals. All the ins and the outs and why you want to go to one.
And why you might not want to go to one.
Yes. True.
So first off, though, we're going to hit with a couple of things we do every week and talking about kind of projects that we're working on. So, Eric, what are you working on right now?
Well, I'm kind of doing a lot of planning right now. I've got my Trello open and I'm making a lot of
you use
and
Trello.
cards. Yeah.
Man, I love Trello.
Trello is a great tool.
For those that might not know, Trello is a project management tool. It basically works off of a card system. You can put different projects into different cards and then
Lists.
different lists, and then you can move one card. Like, say you're in pre-production on one project, you have that card that says, Halloween project, and then you move it from pre-production once you're into the actual production part, and then you move it into post-production, and then once it's finished, you finish, and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's a really great tool. Super intuitive.
It is.
Yeah,
it's super
the user
easy
interface
to use.
is awesome.
Yeah, it's really well thought out, well done. And if you're not familiar with it, go visit Taco at Trello, and he'll hook you up.
Taco. Yeah.
Taco.
Cool. So you're planning for what then?
So I'm kind of, I'm managing the redirection of the YouTube channel, as well as kind of getting all my pre-production plan together for the biographical piece that I'm working on.
And the biographical piece is a 25-year retrospect piece, right?
Yeah, it's a 20, and I realized because I started putting out different YouTube videos as kind of practice, which we've talked about before, staying in the edit space and filming and whatnot. So, and I realized that I'm on the older side of the crowd, and not too much older. I mean,
No.
But I realize is that I haven't really told my story. Like, I haven't, like, people that don't know my history or don't know my involvement in the film industry or even in photography and that type of thing, they might not know and might go, well, why does this guy have authority to speak on these things?
Sure.
And so it's really kind of more of just telling the story of my journey in photography and film in the last 25 years. So gives a little backstory basically for people that stumble on my stuff and go, hey, who is this guy?
Yeah, and is this going to be one video, or are you going to split it up?
It'll be a series of 5. So I'm breaking up the 25 years in 5-year segments.
Yep.
And they'll probably be anywhere from, 10 to 12 minutes long each one.
Oh, okay.
So not too long.
Yeah.
Just, quick highlights, kind of tell the story, and there'll be some interesting, some of the middle years will probably be more interesting than the earlier stuff.
Sure.
But
yeah, usually is.
Except there is one cool element about the very first one, is that there's film in my film camera, my 35 millimeter film camera, that hasn't been developed for.
Was it like in your Pentax or your Canon A1 or whatever?
Uh-huh.
That hasn't been in 25 years?
22 years.
Oh, wow.
The film's still sitting in the camera, and part of the first segment is I'm going to get that film developed, and so my wife is dying to, excuse me. My wife, yeah. So there'll be some interesting pictures out of that because it's from my honeymoon 22 years ago, and my wife's been dying to see those. And so everybody else will get to see them at the same time. So it'll be,
or they won't,
or they won't. Yeah, it doesn't get the develop comes out and it's completely black. Or
your wife at one point opened up the case and then it just totally overexposed everything.
No, she never did that. I might have done that.
Yeah. Oh man, well that's funny. Well, they had the first episode, I guess, release of that narrative series that I was working on here.
Oh yeah, the party.
It came out last week. I don't think they put it online yet.
No, it does. It looks really good.
Yeah, it came out
I
really,
can't wait
really great.
for you guys
so,
to see it.
yeah, I'm happy about it. So, yeah, we'll have some links, and I'll try and do some breakdowns of how and what I shot it
that'd
with.
be cool. Yeah.
And we'll throw those up on the YouTube channel. So that's what we've been working on. And what have you been watching? You been watching anything?
Oh, dude, there's some. I think things that I watch by osmosis is like becoming a thing.
Yeah, that seems to be your
like
common theme.
It's like a segment now.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Osmosis with Eric.
Yeah, the 11-year-old daughter sitting there watching the TV and me in the kitchen, just because the way everything's
your
laid
layout,
out.
yeah.
Like, and then I'll stand there eating, and next thing I know, I'm watching The Princess Diaries.
Oh my gosh, is that what you watched this last week?
Yes.
Have you never seen it?
I watched. Well, they've had it on. Like my older daughter had watched it, and I watched pieces of it.
Yeah.
But like I actually probably watched most of it this time around, and I watched half of the second one because my daughter started watching the second one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Princess Diaries, Princess Diaries 2.
I don't know if we want to. Do you want people to know that?
I don't care.
Yeah, that's
I don't
okay.
care. It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. You watch anything else though?
Yeah, actually last night went with the wife and saw A Beautiful Boy.
Yeah. This is the Steve Carell movie, right?
Yeah, Steve Carell and Timothy, I'm going to mess up his last name. Chalamet.
That's also a common
yeah,
segment.
Yeah.
Watch. Listen to Zach and Eric totally butcher these people's last names. Yeah.
Chalamet, Timothy Chalamet, I think.
Okay.
Is or Chalamet? It's Chalamet. Fantastic! Oh my gosh, the acting is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you think of Steve Carell, you think The Office, you think these comedy bits, and but such a dynamic actor. And Timothy, here's a problem for me. This movie is very serious in nature, and it's about the father-son relationship and dealing with the son's addiction. So he's got a drug addiction.
Yep.
And then the parents are the original parents. His parents are divorced and they live in different places, and so they don't really get into that. I mean, that it gets revealed, but I think part of it is I'm still processing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tough situation because it's really close to home right now, and the actor that plays the son looks a lot like my son, and so it wasn't a warm feel good movie. This isn't a movie that you go watch to escape.
Right.
But and I think here's the thing. It was good. So it's based on these books from David Sheff, and he was the father, and the son Nick Sheff, and they both wrote books about this journey through addiction. And it's pretty heavy. It's not like this warm, fuzzy story at the end. It's not like, I mean, he does go through some pretty serious withdrawals and this type of thing, but it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And
it's a huge problem right now.
One of the things that I did not realize, because at the end, they're promoting, how to, promoting resources and things of that nature to kind of battle addiction. But drug addiction is the biggest cause of death under 50 right now.
Yeah, it's a serious problem.
And overdoses and all that type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard for me because I'm sitting there wrestling through that, and it was very real. And the fact that the actor, the son that played the son, looks a lot like my son, not good.
No. Yeah.
So
that's a hard one. That's a hard one to get through.
And that's life. I mean, there's stuff that happens in life, and we've got to weather those storms. And sometimes the storm, weathers you.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I like to go. A big part of film that I enjoy is the escape element, and as being a Marvel fan, that's total sci-fi fantasy. There's nothing real about that.
Yeah, there's a place for it though.
Yeah, but and then this is real life, and I think the thing about film that I really enjoy is that it can help us. You go to a film, you need that escape. Yeah, you can escape for 2 hours seeing a mindless movie like Venom.
Very mindless, incredibly mindless.
Or you can go to a movie like this and realize you're not alone, right? You're in this space, and that's the biggest thing is sometimes people feel like, oh, it's only me. Nobody else is talking about it around them. And like, wait, there's a whole crew of people that felt strongly enough about this to take this story and put it on film, and maybe it's going to help somebody.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to help somebody have a discussion that they never had. Maybe it's going to help somebody find resources that they didn't know existed.
Right.
Maybe it's just going to communicate to some parents, look, don't be naive. And, little Junior or your daughter might have things that are hiding from you. So it's good. It's good. It's done really well. Shot really well from a technical standpoint. Really like the use of how they lit things. The color grading was amazing because you could tell that's the headspace that the sun was in based on the setting. I mean, it was really...
That's interesting. So they play with the color to kind of give off of kind of his mindset at that time.
Yeah, the color...
Cool.
Yeah, the color use was really amazing. So I'm take a turn for the technical right now, but the use of color, the use of location, the location. So when spoiler alert, well, it's not really super spoilery, but when the son goes through this withdrawal, he relapses and goes through a pretty heavy withdrawal, and they're in this facility. They're actually outside. And this is towards the end and they're sitting outside, they're in the sun. It's kind of like this garden courtyard area at this facility. And there's just this vibe of there's hope because he's just come through this very hopeless situation. So the use of the space was done really well. So
yeah, that's cool. I'm going to have to check that out. I don't know a whole lot about it, or I hadn't heard a whole lot about it. And I saw a poster for it with Steve Carell on the front. It was like in black and white or whatever. And,
that
Beautiful
right
Boy.
There.
Yep. I really enjoy Steve Carell's drama pieces. He's actually got another movie coming out soon where he's dealing with PTSD, I think.
Oh,
he's
right.
got like action figures and stuff.
Yes.
That come to life and everything. That looks really interesting to me. I like those kind of movies. With those typically comedic actors, moving over. And I it's funny though, because I think I might almost consider Steve Carell more of a drama actor now than a comedic actor. I think he may have in the last, 7 years or so done more drama pieces than comedic pieces, which is interesting. But I'm gonna have to check that one out. So it's called Beautiful Boy. It's out now. Check it out.
Yeah. It didn't get a lot of marketing love, and probably because of the serious nature of what it is. And it released October 12th, so it's been out 2 weeks. When it first released, it wasn't in a lot of theaters, and right now it's actually in more theaters now. But there were 2 people other than us in the theater. I mean, it was pretty empty.
It was a Sunday showing too.
Yeah.
So there should have been more.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's too bad. I like independent movies. That definitely sounds like an independent film.
It was. Yeah.
So it's too bad that more people don't get to check those out and experience that. And
Welcome to Marwen is the one.
Okay,
that's the one where he plays
the Steve Carell one.
Yeah,
with action figures. Yep. Welcome to Marwen. I think that'll be really interesting to check out. So
he gets jumped apparently and gets beaten to nearly death, and then loses all of his memory apparently from prior to that event.
Yeah.
And it looks really cool. There's some interesting...
Yeah, the creative ideas with that are really cool.
Yeah.
So, I'll be checking that one out for sure. But what I've been watching is not necessarily something that I just watch. It's something that I also play, and that has been consuming the last day and a half of my life nonstop, and that's Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, yeah. So you bailed on Call of Duty already?
I dumped Black Ops at about 10 o'clock Saturday night, and I said, I'm going to check out Red Dead. It's been sitting on my hard drive for 3 days.
Yeah.
I haven't put it down since. I was actually late to recording the podcast because of it.
Oh, okay. Is this confession time now?
Yeah, I'm letting it all out now.
Podcast is going to be a little bit shorter this week because Zach will be back playing Red Dead
Yeah, we're going to cut this real short. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
His gamer tag is...
This game though, it's amazing. It's one of the most gorgeous games I've ever seen, and it's a lot of fun. It's a Western, which is my favorite genre growing up.
Yeah.
You know, Clint Eastwood and Sergio Leone and all those guys. And oh my gosh, this game, it's beautiful and it's artistic and it's creative and it's cinematic and it's fun and it's terrifying. And yeah, I'm only like 2.5% completed on the game after a day and a half. It's got something like 65 hours of just normal campaign time without even doing side missions and stuff. It's just crazy. But yeah, you're just riding around in the West. So it's like the middle West of the country, and you're on horseback and carriage, and like the rain will just come out of nowhere in your middle of town. All of a sudden, it's just muddy everywhere, and then you'll have a street, like an alleyway fight with a guy, and then you're just covered in mud, and then you have to go wash up, and it's like the interactiveness is just you're just living this life of an actual cowboy, and it's pretty intense, and it's a lot of fun. And I cannot recommend it enough. Like if you have an Xbox One or a PS4, like just go get it.
Yeah, Clint Eastwood, the mule.
Yeah,
coming up.
This looks cool.
I mean, you mentioned Clint Eastwood. I mean, Clint Eastwood's a cowboy. He was Red Dead Redemption character.
My only bummer about it is he looks so old in it.
He's 88 years old, dude.
It's bumming me out.
Is it?
Because I grew up watching,
Dirty Harry.
Yeah, but more of his westerns. I mean, Dirty Harry is a urban western, I guess you could say. But Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes.
A Few Dollars More, A Fistful of Dollars, and just even Unforgiven.
Classics.
And it's just, I grew up watching that, and those, a lot of people had John Wayne.
Yeah.
I had Clint Eastwood, which is kind of weird because I'm 30. So you would think, mine would maybe be somebody else for my westerns. Maybe, not Kurt Russell. I guess it could be Kurt Russell. He was Wyatt Earp in a movie, but, and Tombstone.
Oh, Tombstone,
which is great,
instant classic.
But I don't think when I think of
Kilmer,
Kurt Russell,
Holiday,
I don't think westerns.
Right.
When I think Kurt Russell, I think
Escape from New York.
Yeah, John Carpenter.
yeah.
Basically, But I guess who was the other Dances with Wolves?
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner. I guess he could be my western, which he is also in. I think one of the most underrated and also the greatest modern Western films in the last 20 years, which is Open Range.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Open Range, go check it out. I can't really recommend it enough. It's up there with a lot of the great modern, The Proposition is another one, which is a Guy Pearce movie. That's a Western, and that movie's great too. But yeah, go check out Open Range. It's probably one of the best modern Westerns that still kind of feels like a classic spaghetti Western in a lot of ways. But
Kevin Costner, he was from my alma mater, Cal State Fullerton.
Cal State. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
it. You guys ever?
I met him once.
Yeah.
I met him. Yeah, he was ahead of me by a few years.
He's a little older than you.
Yeah, I think he graduated 4 or 5 years before, as I was just getting there.
Okay.
But yeah, he had come back and done some talks, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
I think we'll have to have an episode on westerns.
Some lectures. That's what it was.
He did some. Yeah. That's cool. I think we'll have to have an episode on westerns.
Absolutely.
It's probably my favorite genre. It might be tied with like hard sci-fi. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, not in the sense of like, I know I say it every time, but it's just the one that comes to my head. Transformers is sci-fi, but I don't consider it to be in a certain area or certain genre that I consider hard sci-fi, which would be something like Moon or 2001: A Space Odyssey or Gravity, Gravity, I mean, is not super hard sci-fi where it's not getting like, scientific mathematics and stuff like that, but it's more of a grounded in reality, but then also bringing in this kind of like fantastical, the fiction side of sci-fi, because there is science, but then there's also some fiction to it, and that's the only way you get sci-fi out of it. But I think westerns, I definitely grew up watching more. I was probably a cowboy, a dozen Halloweens, or some form of it, and constantly walking around as a cowboy, just around the house or going to the store with mom and dad and just dressed like a cowboy. But
So you weren't Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story. You were
no, so because that Toy Story was 95, first one. I can't remember, but
90 something.
I loved. I wasn't Woody. I was never Woody. I don't.
But he was the cowboy,
right? He was.
Are you
but
sure?
I may have been. I don't remember. I just remember dressing.
You have to call mom. Hey,
my earliest costume. I mean, here we go. It's Halloween time,
right?
So we'll talk about it. My earliest costume that I can remember is, I think I was Peter Pan.
Wow.
And I think I only remember it because I've seen pictures. And I probably don't actually remember this, but I was a toddler, like I was tiny. The first one that I really remember like being in costume for was me and my buddy in the neighborhood were Freddie and Jason.
Oh.
And I was like maybe 8 or 9.
And were you Freddie or were you Jason?
I was Jason because I was already 6'4" by the time I was 9, but
sweet.
Yeah, not really, but I was tall. I was a tall 9-year-old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll have to have an episode on Westerns. It's my favorite genre, like I've said multiple times already. So we're going to move on. But the thing that we wanted to talk about today is something that not a whole lot of people might have experience with, or you might not have.
Or it's mysterious.
Yeah, it might seem a little more out there than you realize. It's
super insider,
Yeah, I mean, you hear about the Sundance Film Festival or the New York Film Festival or TIFF or South by Southwest, which we'll talk about, and they seem like these weird kind of extravagant, big
Cannes.
movie star Cannes, and obviously Cannes.
Mm-hmm.
That you got to know somebody to get into these, and they didn't used to be that way. These film festivals used to actually be film festivals. I mean, they still are. They're still showing different films and different genres, and they have their small movie moments where they're showing like the actual independent films. But in a lot of ways, these festivals have become premiere locations for big budget movies that are coming out now. I mean, South by Southwest might be the worst about it. I think.
Yeah, it has. I would say that it has gotten to that. Like it's becoming more that than what it should be.
Yeah. It's a lot of these big ones have gotten away from the, you're entering your film for the first time. It's the first thing you ever made, and it probably sucks. But you know what? They got it in and they accepted it, and then they showed it. And you were one of 30 other ones that were also shown to only 2 people in the room, because that's just the way that these film festivals are.
Right.
There's so many showings going on, and especially in the big ones in South by Southwest and Toronto Film Festival and Sundance and everything. There's multiple showings going on at multiple times, and if you're one person, you cannot see every single one at these big film festivals. So the one that we wanted to talk about, though, that we at least half of us have full experience on, is South by Southwest. And Eric, you worked for South by Southwest for how many years?
So yeah, basically we relocated to Austin from Los Angeles about 5 years ago, and not being familiar with the Austin area or the Austin culture, I thought what a better way to get familiar with that very quickly was to participate and volunteer in probably one of the biggest events in the city for that. I mean,
yeah.
So it afforded me the opportunity to meet some really great people and work with people that have been there for a long time, and get familiar with the city, because I'm running around these different venues, shooting these different artists in theaters and stages all around the downtown area, which under normal circumstances I probably wouldn't have spent that much time downtown. Not really neat. There wasn't really any business that I had down there, and
no need to really be.
Yeah,
down
it
there,
was. I mean, I'm a family of 5. Suburbia is kind of where life is, and so I thought, hey, this is a great way to plug in.
So how did you first get involved with South by then? I mean, you mentioned that you thought no better way than to just jump into one of the biggest things going on in the town, but how did you first get your foot in that door?
Well, it was easy because I had I had professional photography experience when it came to events. So pro sports, pro music events, all over, like major festivals all over the world, from Bonnaroo to Hyde Park Festival in London, as well as a lot of premiere shows, stuff like that. Professional sports photographer. I did a lot of live events, a lot of music events. Mm-hmm. So my portfolio for music was pretty vast.
Yeah, because South by started originally as a music event, not a film festival, right? Or am I mistaken on that? I might be a little off on that. They may have always had some sort of a film festival side to it, but it was very small. I mean, but now, you know, Jonah Hill and Chris Pratt are premiering movies at South by Southwest. Yeah. And what about your experience, you know, those 5 years that you worked there? What is just some kind of like insider stuff that, you know, might kind of demystify just the festival experience as a whole?
Well, I think so. You're right. The festival in the beginning, I mean, it's been around for over 30 years.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was really more about the music. The music was kind of the big thing, and it's evolved into a multi-festival thing now. So what is that? What do I mean by that? So there's multiple festivals happening simultaneously within a 2-week period, and there's a little bit of overlap. So it starts off, well, South by doesn't consider the EDU part of it as part of the South by, but
what's EDU?
So EDU is education. So it's an education festival, and so it's
like breakout sessions and stuff from
there's breakout
people in the
sessions,
industry.
There's lectures.
Interesting. Okay,
but that happens a few days prior to the actual main South by that's considered. So if you're in the education industry to whatever level, and there's a lot of people that will come for. So this is how it breaks down. There's an interactive. So interactive is anything digital, internet-based, application-based, and gaming is considered part of that. So, but gaming is becoming rapidly larger, a larger element.
Is getting bigger and bigger.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you see in the near future where you're going to have a gaming festival that's strictly gaming outside of interactive, because there's so many. So interactive is there's a lot of working pieces to that.
Mm-hmm. And E3 itself is just so huge now, and it's kind of hard for normal people to get into E3. It seems lately it's kind of like Comic-Con in that regard.
Yep.
It would be great if there was an alternative to E3 that, you know, got big on its own, and hopefully it doesn't become too big to where it's just another E3 and the normal person can't get into it. But so you have these 2 weeks of festivals and they're overlapping. And what was your main thing that you were doing there?
Well, when I first got there, it was music, because that was what my portfolio was full of. That's what I was passionate about. I do have a passion for music because I feel like music transcends cultures, and that's a whole nother subject. So the film, there's a film festival aspect, there's the interactive festival aspect, there's the music festival aspect, and then there's also a comedy festival aspect.
Oh, right.
I mean, South by is becoming this big monstrosity that is quite honestly amazing, that they got all these working pieces. They've got all these venues taken over, like 8 square city blocks.
Jeez.
And it's just how they're managing all of that, all of the volunteers. They have the largest volunteer photography crew in the world.
Oh, wow.
And to cover all these events. And I mean, it's just interesting to see the different aspects. I mean, you obviously have these different vertical pillars that people are managing, but to demystify that is get the program, get the map book, get the app,
right.
and all that information really helps you. I think one of the hacks for South by is transportation. And there's some cool, like Mazda has been a sponsor, Chevy's been a sponsor. And basically, they give you, it's a free Uber ride.
Oh, okay.
From all around, and they've got different stations where they pick people up and stuff. So because they want people to check out the new cars. So basically they bring in a whole fleet of the new cars and give people rides all over the city.
Yeah, that's cool.
You sign up, you get, you give them your email, you get a wristband, and that's your ticket for the week or whatever. But yeah, I think going to South by, there's different tiers in the badge process that you can do just an interactive festival. You can do just the film festival. Or you can get a platinum badge that gets you into everything.
Jeez, yeah.
Get a platinum badge. It's $1,500, and then just lose your mind because you're going to be so frustrated from having to pick from different things.
Yeah.
Because you're going to want to be at 3 things at the same time, and they're at 3 different spots across it. It's
big.
It's big. But I think the film festival aspect of it is really cool because you get access to these. When they do these film festivals, they'll do, and even some of the bigger ones, they'll do the premiere. They'll have a red carpet element, which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
It totally makes you geek out, and it's like, let's remove that element and let's just have a meet and greet.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because the thing that in my experience that I've always enjoyed about the film festival experience is that it doesn't feel so A-listed or like so like just blocked from the normal person.
Yes.
In my experience, like I've gone to film festivals and I've seen films, at those festivals, and then the actors are just right there.
Yep.
They're just right next to you.
Yep.
And they're walking into the
And
same door that you are.
It's not weird.
Yeah, it's not weird because everybody is just, they're there for the same reason.
Right.
And it feels like film festivals now, I know I'm kind of knocking bigger film festivals a little bit. I mean, they have their place and they're doing a lot of cool stuff. But at the same time, it feels like it kind of loses that magic or that, I don't know, that element of the uniqueness, the independentness of film festivals when it gets bigger like that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, I think it makes it weird. You have a red carpet and you have it roped off, and then you get all these photographers up in there and they start snapping pictures, and there's this element of euphoria that happens. And maybe you're a huge fan and you're geeking out. I mean, everybody geeks out to some level for somebody or something.
Sure.
And but if you remove that element intentionally, like let's say we're not going to have a red carpet. You got Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart coming in. I'm not going to mention the movie specifically because it was
the one.
It was very crude.
It's not good. It's also not good.
Yeah. I mean, there were some funny moments in it, and I see what they were doing. But it's anyway. But you take away the red carpet element, right? And you have a guy like Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart come in and do a meet and greet in the lobby. Yes, you have security, obviously, because you don't want some.
Yeah, you're not an idiot,
right?
Yeah.
So, but you can have security in that because that's a controlled environment. You're inside a small theater lobby, and the theater is maybe 1,500 or 1,000
these aren't
seats.
huge.
They're not massive.
Man's Chinese theater.
No. And even on that, even in the Chinese theater,
it's really not that big. Yeah.
If you were there and you did a small meet and greet, there's only a certain number of people that are going to be able to fit in that lobby in the first place.
Right.
So you follow it just takes away that, like, oh, this is cool. Like, I can talk to Will Ferrell and ask him some questions or whatever.
Yeah. Or
get an autograph or a picture or whatever. Just be respectful. And I think sometimes they set up these these events in a way where you don't have that, and it fosters kind of this, this us and them type of attitude.
Yeah.
And it like you said, it becomes like this exclusive. There's an exclusivity that's developed, and I don't like it. I don't know. For a film festival, I don't like it.
Feel like every other premiere instead of the film festival. The film festival to me was, and this might just be my poor conception of it or poor thought
or
of it.
Or a really good conception.
Or perhaps. A really good conception of it is that, the film festival is for typically the film makers.
Right.
The filmmakers go to film festivals, or the film buffs go to film festivals, and it's not so much just like I'm not gatekeeping here. I'm not saying that normal people or the average Joe shouldn't go to things like this, but that's what it started out.
It wasn't designed for them in the first place.
Right. It was designed for people that love movies, want to maybe see what the next best thing is going to be. And these aren't your typical moviegoers usually.
Right. Yeah.
At film festivals. And so now, though, it's become this like whoever has enough money to pay for the film pass and is a huge, I'm not throwing them under the bus, but like let's say a Harry Potter fan, and the next Fantastic Beasts or whatever is coming out, and they're gonna premiere it at South by or whatever. Well, they're not premiering at South by, but still, now the normal person can go and just go there because they want to see Johnny Depp, and not so much a filmmaker that wants to go and talk to that gaffer or that director. I mean, the gaffer's probably not going to be there, but because he's already on the next job. But the filmmakers, and maybe actually get some insight into it instead of just like, hey, what dress are you wearing to this premiere or whatever. And
nobody
it's like,
cares.
Your film festival, I don't care about it. I want to know your thought process behind why did you like that red background red, and then have the camera go this way to convey, oh, well, I did it because in his mind in this moment he's thinking blah, blah, blah. That's what we go to film festivals for. We go to film festivals for the breakdown and for the understanding, the behind the scenes, and know why they did it a certain way.
The first film festival.
We've gotten away from that.
The first film festival I ever went to was Santa Barbara Film Festival. Mm-hmm. And it was my first film festival experience, and this was back in the day. And the premiere that they released was Without Limits. Yeah. And Tom Cruise produced this film. It was about Prefontaine. Billy Kudrup was the main actor. And it was an amazing film. I really enjoyed it. Here's the thing, that there wasn't this big red carpet reception thing. There wasn't, all of the cameras and it wasn't that at all. There was a panel. There's a panel discussion where if you were in the audience, you got to interact and ask questions. So there was a Q&A session. Mm-hmm. After, they showed the film, and then afterwards there was a reception. So there was a courtyard just to the outside of the theater, and everybody's hanging out, whether it was studio executives, whether it was producers, whether it was a director. Sometimes the actors were there, sometimes they weren't, just depending on what their schedule was. But it wasn't like this, we're the inside industry people, and then there's, it wasn't just us and them. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think at the time I might have been working for Fox, so I could have been considered an insider at that point. But I was not in that space. Like, I wasn't anybody. I was just,
you weren't there because you were there for Fox, right?
No, I was there with my wife, and we're like, hey, we got some passes to this film festival. Let's go check this out. This looks really cool. Yeah. And that's what, and maybe because that was my first experience, and it's a smaller festival, mm-hmm. It's a more local festival.
Which I want to speak on that for a second. So the smaller festivals, the local festivals, I feel like if you're on the fence about going to festivals, or if you have never been to a festival, don't make South by your first or anything like that.
You'll be overwhelmed. You'll never go again.
Go to a small one. And you know what? You might not see anything you like, but that's the whole point of it. You're still you're gonna rub shoulders with people that are, interested in the same things that you are. Yeah. And you're gonna get some insight into just kind of the processes and ideas and how that end of the industry works. A lot of us do the production side of it or the pre-production side of it or the editing side of it, but there's a distribution side of this too. And there's a lot of that you get to see the insights of at film festivals.
I mean, that's what they were for industry. A lot of the film festivals are developed for independent filmmakers to debut and shop their films.
Yeah, trying to sell it for distribution.
To distributors, to others, to bigger studios or what have you. Right. And then it starts to become something that it was never designed to be in the first place. But I think the cool thing about festivals for me is the being able to see the independent films, mm-hmm. being able to see like, okay, somebody pulled together $100,000 on a crowdfunding thing to make this film, and just the choices that they're making. You know, it would be considered a budget film, but just seeing the up and comers, you know, it's like, here's somebody that's super creative, that's super passionate, that's telling the story, and otherwise you're never going to see.
Right.
Otherwise you may never get to meet, and they blow up and you're like, oh yeah, I remember when at this da 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 da. And I got to meet and talk with them, super down to earth, super creative, you know.
Right. And this is my segue into that, because the film festival that I worked at was the Florida Film Festival, and the movie that had probably the biggest, I guess, premiere there. It wasn't, I don't think it was its first premiere, but the cast and crew were there for it, was for this movie called Paperman, and Jeff Daniels, Ryan Reynolds, Emma Stone, and then
that's a great cast.
Kieran Culkin,
yeah,
who's Macaulay Culkin's brother. This was it was. I don't even think it had been bought yet. I think I saw it maybe a month or a couple weeks before somebody decided to buy it for distribution. And really interesting movie. But what I'm getting at with meeting people before they're huge is Emma Stone. I mean, I got to hang out with Emma Stone and Kieran Culkin, and we just talked about stuff and talked about the filmmaking process and all this stuff. And then I want to say like the next year or something, she's in Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
You know, like and then she's just huge after that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was exactly what you're saying, and I think it's a really interesting part of the smaller filmmaking experience, film festival experience, is that you might hit these people. Now, she was doing a lot of stuff before that, but she was nowhere near the scale of actor that she is now, in the sense of like she's got a TV show on Netflix and then 5 movies coming out in the same year and all that. But that's one thing that I think you, as a filmmaker, or maybe if you're just interested in film in general, you need to go and check out film festivals. You know, go online, see what their schedule is, see if something hits a genre that you like. You know, maybe there's something that kind of piques your interest on it, and check that out. You know, pay the film festival price. The smaller ones they're really low. I mean, you might spend maybe $20 and then pay $2 for the movie to go see it.
Yep.
It's not a whole lot of money, and you know, you can just choose it. You don't have to go for a full day. You don't have to go for a full week. But I think it's a unique experience that not a lot of people go through.
Yeah, and it's cool because so you see you hang out with Emma Stone in 2009 during Paperman at this small festival in Florida, and then she goes on and blows up, like she does Zombieland, Easy 8, Amazing Spider-Man, like you mentioned.
That's
and then
what it was.
La La
Zombieland
Land
was like the next, yeah, right.
And so you see the progression of her career, but you made a friend.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a personal, like, you got to hang out and have a personal interaction and a discussion about, you know, whatever that was. And like, that's cool.
It was.
That's what festivals should be.
Yeah. And it wasn't this just, I took a selfie on the red carpet with so-and-so.
Right.
It was, I had an actual engaging moment.
Yep.
With somebody else in the industry that's doing it at a high level, at a great quality, you know, and it's
La La Land. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, she's huge now. So, I keep saying that. It's like my go-to. I can't recommend it enough. But yeah, go to a small film festival if you're going to get to one. Right,
because you would never see. So here, this is a perfect example, because you're not going to see Paperman in the theater.
No, I don't think it was actually fully released. I
Without
think they just
Limits
did a digital,
wasn't a
right.
theater release. It wasn't a theatrical release. And so these amazing films that you end up walking by at Walmart in the DVD bin,
right,
that somebody poured their life into.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I use that example because I just did that last night, and I'm looking at this bin of, you know, and they're all $4.99, and it's like that's where the movie ends up. It's kind of a sad. This is the depressed episode. Sorry about that. But the point that I'm making is that to reinforce your point is that there's these amazing films, these amazing experiences that you're never going to have in some. You're not going to do it. And sadly, some of the bigger film festivals are becoming more like that. Like what we're saying is this kind of elitist, exclusive. You're not going to be in it, and some of them are industry festivals. And okay, fair enough. If you're not in the industry, you're not going to get it. You're not going to be a part of that. However, there's plenty of small festivals all over the country that there's amazing filmmakers that you've never heard of.
Yep.
And you're going to meet the directors, you're going to meet the actors, you're going to meet the cast and the crew and be able to interact with them in a way that otherwise you never would.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was fortunate enough they were showing The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the actual Swedish version, at the film festival. So I was able to see that.
So they were shopping it.
Yeah, I think they were still shopping at the time, maybe. I mean, it was a pretty high budgeted movie, I think, for over there, so they may not have been. But I was able to see that, and then I think it was another year or two that it even eventually came out. So that was a lot of fun. I saw some terrible movies.
Yeah, and there's those.
But those are also kind of fun because then the filmmakers are there. And I think the filmmakers, unless you're Tommy Wiseau from The Room, you don't know that, or they do know that it's a terrible movie. And they're like, you know what? But yeah, I worked and I got this in here and it was accepted still. And I got to show it in a theater with people.
It's a process.
Who all laughed at it. But you know what? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to talk about why we did it. And, I don't know what I'm doing and all this stuff. And it's a lot of fun. And yeah, so I think you should go check out smaller film festivals. If you really want to do the big ones, go for it. I'm not going to stop you from doing that. But I think the smaller ones are definitely a lot more intimate. And one thing I want to go back to is the movie bin that you were just talking about at Walmart. I have a story of a movie that Big Lots in America. We have this little. It's like a not a consignment store, but it's basically like stuff that is not really selling well at other stores. They bring it into these store called Big Lots, and then they sell stuff for cheap. Well, I used to pick up movies at Big Lots randomly, and sometimes you'd get like the full screen aspect ratio ones, and you were like, well, "What is this? This is terrible." So I have like a full screen. I don't have it anymore, but I had a full screen version of like Schindler's List that I got for like $3. Not great. That movie's definitely not great in 4:3.
Right.
But a movie that I picked up from that I would have never even thought of until I got into filmmaking and stuff is this movie that I know you're going to know of, but a lot of people from my generation might not. It's called To Live and Die in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible movie. It's amazing. And it's one of those movies, though, that I just blind buy. It was like $4. I was like, the cover art looks interesting. You know what? And it's the dude from, the original dude from CSI, William Peterson.
Yep. 91% of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But this movie, it's not one that was on my radar at all. It's not. But speaking of that, taking a chance, sometimes you got to take a chance on a movie that is in that $4, $5 bin. And sometimes you get a winner. And this movie, I'm sure it's on digital everywhere now, but this was 10 years ago. To Live and Die in LA, it's a gritty movie, and the cinematography is solid in it. And it's when was that? It was early 90s, late 80s.
85.
85. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Willem Dafoe. William Peterson.
Right. He's in it too. Yeah, it's a solid flick. I think really, if you can get your hands on it for cheap, it might be on iTunes or something for $3.
Yeah, it might even if you dig deep enough, it might even be in,
might still
in
be
Netflix somewhere.
Yeah, it might still be in the bin at Walmart too. So
the $1.99 bin.
Yeah. But it's funny though that you mentioned that because that was one of the solid. I mean, I picked up some other ones that were just terrible, but I think take a chance on some bin ones. They're not always great, but might have some winners in there like I had with To Live and Die in LA. So.
Yeah.
But getting back to the film festivals, you spent 5 years at South by. Kind of what was the biggest takeaway for you? Because I only did Florida Film Festival for 1 year, and it was only for about a week and a half, if that. And you were in a different area of South by Southwest. You had a lot more things to going on. Whereas the Florida Film Festival was just film. You had music and video games and a bunch of different areas to go on. So what was kind of a big takeaway for you from that experience?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, there was a lot of great there's a lot of great experiences that I had, I think, but the bottom line for me is relationships. And so the relationships that I built on the photo crew are friends that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. And then making new friends that otherwise you might not ever have met. Like, I was assigned to cover Jimmy Kimmel, and Kevin from Kevin and Bean so Kevin and Bean is a radio show in LA at a very popular alternative radio station called K-Rock. So K-Rock's been around since like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And so I've listened to Kevin on the radio for a long time, and probably been in a lot of the same places because of the music events that I've covered and stuff, but never actually met him. And so backstage, I got talking to Jimmy and Kevin. We're talking about family. We're talking about our kids. We're talking about just life stuff and different things that we're in. You know, he's about my age, and growing up in LA, I mean, it's, you know, we had a lot of the same types of experiences and
Sure.
and bands and music tastes, but it was cool. And it's like, I wouldn't consider, even though at some point in my life I would have been a fan, I'm considering more a friend than being a fan at this point. Now, that was just one conversation. So we're not hanging out.
Yeah,
we're not
right.
talking every week, you know, so it's not that kind of a friendship, but you know, it was we related on life levels.
I think that's a really good point to bring up, is it normalizes the Hollywood experience.
Yeah.
Film festivals do, because I think in a lot of ways we think of certain actors or creatives as just they're on another level than us, and they're on another tier maybe than us. And I think, you know, in a creative aspect, that's true, but I'm sure majority of them like to just talk about nothing.
Yeah.
Just to be normal.
Absolutely.
You know, and
because they're surrounded by people that don't treat them that way.
Right. Yeah.
There's this element of celebrity that they've got to navigate, and to be able to hang out and just talk life stuff, that's super refreshing. Like, don't make it weird. Don't be weird and go,
hey, yeah, right.
Can I have your autograph?
Yeah.
Can we take a selfie?
Right.
And there's a time and a place for that, but they're inundated with that 24/7, and for me it's been, don't be a fan, be a friend. And sometimes being a friend is giving them their space.
Yeah.
Like, don't get up in their grill.
Read the room.
Yeah, they're having dinner with their spouse or their family or whatever. Please don't bother them. Yeah, and so for me, the biggest takeaway is make friends. Be respectful. Don't treat people differently because of who they are. You know, give them the same level of respect that you would anybody else.
Yeah.
And they're going to appreciate you for it. They're going to appreciate that you're treating them with honor and respect. Like, would you do that? Would you behave that same way to somebody that you didn't know randomly in a restaurant or at a mall or whatever?
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think taking away that element of celebrity, I think it's important, because then once you do that, then you can make friends. Then you can be a safe place for somebody that may not have a safe place because they're surrounded in the industry with all the, you know, people are clout chasing, or people are trying to climb up the ladder or whatever, so to speak. And that's, I mean, sorry, I'm messing around with stuff.
You're good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's important to realize, is just to be respectful, and, you know, the networking with that will come naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, all of us were constantly trying to network. We're constantly trying to get people on our radar, get our, us on their radar. But I think you have to do that in a respectful way. And film festivals, they let you brush shoulders with all types of people.
Absolutely.
And it's a very important aspect, I think, of filmmaking, is to just kind of see how that world is. I don't know how much longer film festivals like this will be around. South by's in the big ones, the big five or whatever, they'll be around for a long time, I think. But
and they're networking events for some people at some level.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be networking events for the smaller filmmaker or the person that's just coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to, and fair enough, there's a place for that, and you've got to put in the effort. You've got to put the work in. You've got to pay your dues, so to speak, to a certain degree before you're, and that's why there's a submission process for getting your film in there. And but it doesn't mean that you can't be that. 3 years ago, where, and I even forget the name of the film, completely shot on iPhone at Sundance. Tangerine.
Yep.
Like what? Wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
How many people have an iPhone in their pocket?
Right.
But I think what's cool about that is that it gives everybody an opportunity. Like if you're creative, it doesn't matter if you have an Arri Alexa or if you have a Red.
The format isn't the super important part of it.
No.
As long as the story is there, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, shoot it on a phone. You have a phone in your pocket. You can be a filmmaker if you put the effort in.
And that got into a huge film festival.
Hello?
Yeah. So, I think, we've talked a lot about kind of just our experience at the festivals and, rubbing shoulders with people. But the other part of it that I want to talk about is like entering a festival. And they're all pretty much the same. They're all pretty self-explanatory. If you go to their website, they'll give you kind of the breakdown, the fee, and how to best give it to them, and whether it's a YouTube link or a DVD or a USB or whatever. But I think that, if you're worried about getting into a film festival, or if you want to get into a film festival, like, just do it. Yeah. Your film might not be the best thing ever. It might not be Tangerine, even though it was shot on an iPhone, but just submit it. And the worst thing that happens is they say, no, we won't accept your submission or whatever. But I think it's important to get an audience, especially with your film, if you want that style of filmmaking.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to get an audience. You're going to get exposure. You might get exposure to industry people that you would otherwise never get exposure to, or your film, which is a big part of why you would do the film circuit and the festival circuit in the first place. But local film festivals are a great place to start if you're considering doing that, because your competition is lower.
Yep.
It's not as, you might have a smaller audience, but that's where you gain the grassroots steam.
It's one thing to release it on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you want to, but there is still something about, we talk about movies every week, and there's still something about that theater experience, and seeing your film on a big screen is it's its own experience in itself. And so don't worry about getting denied submission, or if somebody's going to laugh at your movie. A lot of people laugh at movies that they shouldn't laugh at. A lot of people like movies that maybe they shouldn't like. A lot of people don't like movies that maybe they should. So don't worry about maybe that audience isn't the right one. Just do the film, submit it. If it gets in, it gets in. And it's
submit to multiples.
Submit
to as many as you can that make sense and that you can afford to be at. I think that's a huge one. If you're producing a film, if you're the one that's
you're handling all the budget and everything. Yeah,
dude, please, if you get in, go. Go be there, be a part of panels, be a part of the networking, because you might. So you get into outside of South by Southwest, Austin also has a local Austin Film Festival. Go. A friend of mine had a film that was released there, and he went there and he was a part of that whole thing, and it's great. It's a great way to grow your audience. It's a great way to network. It's a great way to premiere and debut your film that you've created. And then maybe at some point, it does do a full national theatrical release, and those people that you connected with at the film festival are like, they're going to feel that you made them important, and they're going to feel special because you spent the time to invest to hang out with them when that film was that nobody knew about.
Yeah. I mean, and who knows what kind of ripple effect that might have on other fellow filmmakers, that might be going to that film festival and they were maybe on the fence about doing something, and they heard somebody else talk about their experience and it led them to go have their own experience.
Yep, absolutely.
So, guys, go to film festivals, go to whichever one you want. We talked a little bit about kind of the negatives of South by, but at the same time, it's still an experience. It's still...
There's smaller independent ones.
There's still some smaller stuff
I don't
to
want
do.
people walking away feeling like we're slamming South by in any way. I just think that as it becomes bigger, Hollywood gets involved and brings the Hollywood thing to it.
Yeah.
The South by people are very down to earth. They're not promoting that exclusivity in that way, and they're trying to still keep that intimacy and personal connectivity and that type of sense. So please in no way take this as a slam on that. It's just that this is something that industry is struggling with. This isn't unique to South by. It's like, we don't want that exclusivity type of thing spilling over. And so don't make it weird. Part of it is these Uber fans making it weird.
Yeah.
So the encouragement to the fans, don't make it weird.
Yeah, stop making it weird.
Stop making it weird.
You're
so
ruining it for the rest of us.
That exclusivity will those exclusive walls will come down to some degree if you just
chill out.
Yeah, just be cool.
Just be cool, man. Just be cool.
Because someday that might be you, honestly.
Yeah.
Someday you might be in that place and you don't want that weird stalker fan, So
yeah.
Anyway. Security's a thing. That's a whole nother podcast. But I think, it would be cool, even as we're talking about this, I think it would be cool for us to do some on-site podcasting and actually pull some of these people in and get their points of view and their perspective on that we could share with you guys.
Yeah, that'd be great. We're always looking for ways to get more insight to people. So yeah, that'd be a really good avenue to go down. So yeah, guys, just go check out some film festivals. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of inside detail about that. And they're nothing fancy. They're nothing magical.
They can be magical.
They can be magical for you, but yeah, they're not this crazy weird land of opportunity that only A-listers can get into. So check them out. Go visit a small one. I really enjoy doing that. It's a lot of fun. You can get to see some very unique things that might not ever show again anywhere else. And you got to experience that moment. So other than that, though, that's it for this week. What we're going to do next week is we're going to go see Bohemian Rhapsody. We're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do a new segment called
Flashback. Is that what we're calling it?
I think that's what we're going to call it.
All right, yeah.
So we might change next week. But anyways, we're going to revisit.
We'll change the title maybe.
Yeah, we're going to revisit an older movie. No, it's an old movie.
Yeah, it is.
It's not older. It's not 5 years old. It's 30 years old. 34 years old to be exact. And we're going to talk about the movie from 1985 called Less Than Zero with
Andrew McCarthy,
Robert Downey Jr., Andrew McCarthy, James Spader, Jamie Gertz.
Yep.
This movie, 34 years old now,
but still relevant.
Very relevant, especially given, Robert Downey Jr.'s history. So we're going to break that down, get into that movie, and talk about Bohemian Rhapsody a little bit. So, Eric, where can they find us online if you guys want to find us online?
Well, you can find us on Instagram at The Easy Podcast, as well as on Twitter at The Easy Podcast. In addition to that, where else?
Well, I'm on Instagram as @ZachAbbotts, and you're on Instagram as
Eric Thurston.
So you guys can find our personal ones there and the podcast on there. And then we're also going to have a little video this week on YouTube that's going to be exclusive just for that. We're going to try and get more into YouTube stuff since this is a filmmaking podcast. We're not really doing a whole lot of filmmaking with this podcast, aside from just talking about filmmaking. So we're going to try and get our feet wet in the YouTube realm a little bit more with this podcast. So that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for listening.
And on YouTube, they can find us at where?
Oh, good.
Where are they going to?
Yeah, that's a really good point. They can find us at the Easy Podcast Show on YouTube. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Now I'm going to segue out of the show.
That'd be fantastic.
This is the end. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.